Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you move.
Welcome to Tales from the Field. My name is Bradley Ball, and it is so good to have you with us. We are back and better than ever. Last week, we had Daniel Taylor, and he delivered Azure Data Studio, the ADS migration extension, a powerful combo for online SQL migrations, part 4. Then on Tuesday, we had our community roundtable, and on Wednesday, we released Semantic Kernel using OpenAI to configure prompt engineering in Microsoft Fabric. And then on Monday, Daniel Taylor was back again with Azure Data Studio ADS, the September release 1.6, how to manage your SQL Server and Azure SQL with new features. You don't want to miss a thing. So much to do, so much to see. We are coming to you live from the hub of Tales from the Field over on our YouTube channel. It is so easy to interact with the show, and we love interacting with you. If you have a question, if you have a comment, please make sure to fire away. And what we will do is one of my wonderful co-hosts will see it, and they will add you to the show, and your comment will be part of the show. Of course, before I go any further, let me introduce these co-hosts. I am joined by Daniel Taylor, Mr. Andreas Padilla, and Mr. Josh Luedeman. And more powerful than a steam locomotive and able to leap analytics in a single bound, it's your friend and mine, Neeraj Jhaveri. Neeraj, welcome to the show. Quick call to action, everybody. We are part of the Azure Data community, and we want you to be part of the Azure Data community as well. Head over to Microsoft's Azure Data community page, find a local user group, participate, be in person with real life people just like you who are here and part of the community network. Maybe find your next job, maybe help figure out a problem you're having at work. That's what the community is for, to be able to build that network. Next up after that, you want to go and you want to check out SQLSaturday.com. SQL Saturday has wonderful and amazing live events coming up in your local area where they feature the likes of Microsoft's top minds, MVPs, top consultants in the field, all there to be able to help you train and learn more about your data platform. And of course, coming up, we've got SQL Saturday Orlando number 20. In 2023, number 1047. That is, wow, hard to believe we're that far into SQL Saturdays. I'm going to be there. Dan Taylor's going to be there. Karthik Yell is going to be there. Josh Luedeman's going to be there. Buck Woody's going to be there. We've got a pre-con. There's still some space left, not a lot, but you want to go and you want to check that out. It is a full day for Microsoft Fabric for the data professional. We are hard at work. We were emailing with the organizers today, getting a head count, making sure that we had everything set up and ready to go for you. Very soon, you will be getting emails from us for the prerequisites if you're attending the class to make sure you can do the hands-on labs. And we are so excited to do that. Talking about something we're exciting for, again, Data Saturday events. These are some of the best virtual events from around the world. You're going to find the same crowd, the Microsoft folks, the MVPs, the top consultants who are all participating in SQL Saturdays will also be participating in Data Saturdays. So head over to datasaturday.com, get yourself some free training. And of course, when we talk about free training, I can't help but think of LinkedIn. And we have a Microsoft Fabric LinkedIn group that we created with the Microsoft Fabric product group. The product group post in here. We post in here. We're looking in here for any questions and answers. We make sure all of our content is there. Earlier today, we had our live monthly update on Microsoft Fabric with Bradley Schatt from the Microsoft Fabric product group. We did a whole bunch of demos, and if you missed that, you're going to want to go check out that video after we're done here, because Brad went into depth on the different charts that they have for consumption, and even mathematically broke out a calculator to be able to show you how you apply that and understand and break that down to your individual workloads, what's going on in Fabric, and what you're going to be billed for. Whew, that was so much. Andreas, we got a lot going on, buddy. How you doing?
Good. It's, I think, fall in Florida. You know, it dropped a degree. So.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it dropped a degree. Whew. I was going to say, so we're in the low 90s. Bradley Schatt, our good friend from earlier today, says the Tales from the Field is now the Daniel Taylor Show. I guess it's about time. We had 3 Brads on the Microsoft Fabric wrap up for September. I was going to say such a wonderful crowd with beautiful, wonderful names.
Nobody
But
wants that. Nobody wants that.
everybody wants that, Josh. We also talked about pizzas. But
No,
pizzas,
but that's
they're
also
ninjas.
because you think everybody's named Brad, and the only people in everybody is Brad's. So of course, Brad's want to show of Brad's.
Just the amazing, wonderful, kind, beautiful people. Ted Lasso's real first name is Brad.
No, it's not.
It's a little known fact. It's a
Really?
little known fact. Speaking
It's
of little known facts,
that Ted doesn't even know. Continue.
3 Brads, 1 fabric.
And don't people eat the Brad diet when they're sick? Oh no, not the Brad diet. Sorry, it's the Brad diet. My bad.
Oh, look how funny Dan thinks he is. Congratulations. You know, I was going to say, we're just going to bypass the bad humor and go to someone who is amazing, has a great sense of humor. And I love every time this man speaks. Of course, you know, I'm talking about the one, the only Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri. You're up first with SQL projects, support for warehouses in Microsoft Fabric.
So thanks, Brad. SQL project is now supported in Warehouse in Microsoft Fabric. Nicely written article by Salil. He goes over how to set up the whole thing. Why do you need SQL database projects? I mean, he explains it out for source control integration, database testing, schema validation, and how to do it up. So he also has 2 ways to do it: Azure Data Studio and Visual Studio that can help you to build it up, the whole entire stack of it. He shows you step by step how to build this up, and that is something that was introduced in in September.
Very, very nice. I was going to say, I love to see the Git configuration, the little bit of CI/CD starting to develop its way more and more into Fabric. This is a good first start, allowing database projects to be able to deploy schemas amongst environments. Really, really good stuff. Speaking of, I found some good stuff, and what I wanted to share was Hitesh Hinduja. So Hitesh has a very, very interesting and very comprehensive blog, Feast on Cloud, setting up Feast in Microsoft Fabric notebooks, a step-by-step guide with feature stores in Fabric. And he talks about his experience with this and the suggestion that he had a while ago of, hey, I should do a startup that builds this type of thing. And then he goes, and what I found was I could do this in Microsoft Fabric using the feature store and Feast. This is a very detailed blog, as you can see right here from scrolling through it. We're only a part of the way through, but what I love is he goes through how in the notebook that you would do the pip, you would install Feast, you would set up your project, and then he gives you the code to be able to go through and set this up. This is something that if you're interested in it and setting up a model repository to be able to utilize and pull from your models, train them, and then have them in place for you to be able to utilize in other ways. It's a wonderful, wonderful step-by-step. It's a very interesting thing. I can't wait to dive into this a little bit further. I haven't been able to do every single bit of it yet, but it was really fascinating from a reading perspective and also from a learning perspective. What I love is how Microsoft Fabric is an environment. I was actually saying this, I think, to Dan earlier in the week. So stable. Right now, if I want to build something in Python in a notebook and I want to do it on my system, I'm always at the whim of what version of Python, what update, how does that interact with my Windows update, and things could break at any moment. But if I go over to Fabric, I could use Pandas, I could use PySpark, and either one of them are incredibly stable. I can pip to add the components that I want to be able to add, and then I can create my own packages. I've been able to do beautiful soup scraping. I've been able to invoke the semantic kernel. And now we have another great and wonderful thing that Hitesh is showing us how to do. One of my favorite environments to play around with notebooks right now.
And what I love about it, Brad, is it's so stable and it's still in preview. That's what's amazing.
I know. It blows the mind. So speaking of mind blowing, whenever this man speaks, I can't wait to listen because he has mind-blowing, in-depth information. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Dan Taylor with Azure Data Studio 1.46 new features. I believe you just did a video on this as well, didn't you?
I did do a video on this. I pulled out some of my favorite parts about release 1.46. I saw this blog post on the social media by Erin Stellato. She writes up about 1.46 and 1.45 because a lot of us apparently missed some of the great features in there. Now we can do a lot of things we could do, and we were having a joke about this on the Tales from the Field September update for Fabric, right? It just doesn't sync up. It doesn't have parity. Well, now we can drop databases. We can add databases. We can script these items, right? We can now, and two things I was most excited about is we could see properties of servers and databases. And then with the SQL database projects going live, they put the endpoint connectors in here for Fabric. So there was some really exciting stuff announced in here. And those items that I called out there, I spoke about in the video. And also the stability and bug fixes are just amazing. Read the blog post. The blog post takes you to the release notes that has pages of fixes, which is amazing. The team's doing great work.
I was going to say kudos to Aaron Stellato, kudos to the team over for Azure Data Studio. We love it. Absolutely great work. Speaking of absolutely great work, I saw this in the link list and I got very, very excited because whenever this man comes to the table, he always brings some great work and there's something that we can all dive into and learn from. And it's Mr. Andreas Padilla with the Azure Computer Vision in a Day workshop. Andreas, tell me about this because this seems like something that we could dive in and really learn more about computer vision.
Oh man, we got to give great thanks to Serge Rutkowski. I believe he's over in France. But he is the black belt, the ninja when it comes to the Vision AI. Man, this guy knows everything. And what he's done for us is he's built a great repo where we can go in and go from 0 to hero in a day. They teach us a number of things. For instance, where is my how to use the latest foundation models, that Florence model to do vector searches with images, image analysis for doing analysis on an image if it contains adult content, finding specific brands, objects, finding human faces, and he wraps it in an actual real world app inside that GitHub repo. There's other great goodies in there, how to do background removal, and then how to pair this with video indexer to be able to analyze your videos. Man, if you get through this in one day, you'll be able to solve a ton of scenarios with that Florence model for Vision AI. Man,
I was going to say, you've got it mastered at that point in time. If you could do it within a day, vive la France. So we appreciate him over there committing to the community, right? Speaking of mastery, whenever I see these links in here, I know that this is coming from the point of view and from someone who displays actual mastery. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Josh Luedeman, who's up next with Deploy a Containerized Python App to Azure Part 1.
Yeah, so this was just a nice article for me because there's some side project stuff I'm working on demo-wise and really taking some things that I've run previously on, my own workstation in containers. And I wanted to basically put them out into the cloud and not rely on the compute I have with me to be able to run some of this stuff. So this article actually walks through understanding not only how to deploy to Azure, these different Python containerized apps, but also how to even set up your development environment, which was good for me because, again, looking at some of the stuff I built it originally to run in a container on my own instance. Well, what changes do I need to make to be able to have this code be able to run in Azure, and refactoring and changes in my setup and things like that. But at the end of the day, it walks through everything in here with code, including setting up environment variables for you to be able to do things like connecting to a SQL server, using asynchronous functions, things like that, and then initializing the APIs within your Python container to be able to accept those connections. So really thorough article, goes through everything right down into testing, setting up your Docker files accordingly, the whole deal. So definitely a great one, especially if you're like me, not necessarily an app developer by trade, but one who finds use to step into the role when building demos and different things. This was a really handy article to kind of bridge that gap for me, that knowledge gap.
I agree. This is great stuff. I love it. I
Right.
love it whenever somebody takes this point of view, lays out the details so well that it makes it very easily and accessible for other people to be able to take this and then begin to incorporate it.
Agreed. Article, blog article on app development where I feel like a regular, 40-hour a week developer is going to look at it and be offended that someone would write something that remedial is the stuff I feed on. That's the stuff I love.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. That's what I need. Talking about what I need. When we were looking at Saturday Night Live, there was the wonderful skit talking about how you need more cowbell because it added so much. It was the essence of the song. We'll talk
I'm going
about the
again.
essence of the song. We need this essence. Wow, Neeraj, Microsoft brings Oracle Exadata to Azure in a surprise announcement. Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri, take it away here.
Thanks, thanks, Brad. Surprise move this week. Microsoft and Oracle tied up a new partnership, saying about Oracle Exadata to Azure. This is a big announcement right before the Oracle world that is coming up. What is Exadata? I mean, even in the article, Steve mentioned it up, right? I mean, what exactly is Exadata, right? It's basically bringing the whole hardware part of it into Oracle, into Microsoft data centers, and this is definitely going to help move really fast for it. There are also some feedback from the analyst what is in there, so he's got captured that also in a very nicely way. But a good surprise move for this week. A good partnership that we had it in the past is going more and more. Oracle and Azure tying up more things in there.
Absolutely. I enjoyed this as well. I thought this was a great read. It gave a wonderful overview of what Exadata is. It gave a wonderful overview of what we're looking to do and essentially the combination of Oracle and Microsoft, how we both look to benefit, but that the number one person that benefits from this is the enterprise IT customer that currently uses Exadata on premise and is locked on premise and can't really do a good cloud migration. This makes this that much more capable for them. And I think it's exciting. This partnership has the potential to bring a lot of really cool things to the forefront. And speaking of bringing to the forefront, I wanted to bring to the forefront from the SQL undercover DBAs, penetration testing for your SQL Server, part one, the recon mission. So, for those not familiar, penetration testing is specifically when you're trying to crack the security of an environment. You can have white hat hackers that you contract to be able to do work in your environment. There are people within Microsoft community groups outside that constantly are doing testing to be able to find bugs, report them, and make sure that they get patched before they're exploited by a black hat hacker. This is one of those things that, from a data perspective, it's really good to know when people are going to walk through and begin doing penetration testing, what should they be looking for? And again, the undercover DBAs, I want to throw out credit to David Fowler and Adrian Buckman. Wonderful, wonderful job. I love this. The reconnaissance tool using Nmap to be able to scan your port range for 1433. By the way, everybody who always thinks when I say change your default port from port 1433 and goes, oh no, not that. I'm telling you, whenever you have to be the person who has been hacked and you have to explain to management, or if you are a public enough company that you get called to testify before Congress and you have not changed your default port, this is the first thing they're going to say. They're going to say, why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do this simple thing? And you want to be able to say at that point in time, we took every single step that we could. And so you can see the first thing they do is they look for 1433. Why? Because it's the default port for SQL Server. If you installed a default instance on a Windows box, you're running on 1433 and you may not even know it. It's not that difficult to change the port. It will naturally be handled by the service that auto redirects you when you make it to the fully qualified domain name. And that's not to say that this is going to prevent you from finding it. There's plenty of scans. Anybody who's done penetration testing will tell you there's scans you can do specifically once you get into the network for SQL Server. But that's the point in time that you need to be able to make sure that you've got some level of defense set up. Can we change the port to listen to a non-standard port? Yes, you can. And they walk through how to do that. Can they still find it? Yes, they can. And they walk through how to do that. But again, you want to make sure that you have changed this so you can say, at least here's what we've done. Make them work a little bit harder. Any network watcher worth its scope that most enterprise ITs have should be firing off alerts left and right if you're using this technique to be able to scan the environment. So hopefully you're going to catch somebody before they do it. Did you trip any alarms? Right here. Here's things that you have in the SQL error log specifically that you could alert off of. Again, these are alerts that you could create and that you could actually have sitting on your SQL Server instances looking for these alerts to occur. Just wonderful stuff. And security is everybody's job, especially from a data point of view.
Do you when you install SQL Server, does it ask you to install a port number? I mean, define a port number, or it just goes by default 1433?
So for your first default instance, it will default to 1433. For subsequent named instances, it auto changes that because they can't operate on the same port. But you can very easily go into your SQL configuration manager if you want to do this via Windows and not via the command line. And you could go in the TPIP settings and you could change the default port number. And that's the thing is there's a SQL service that runs that forwards you to other instances. So if I have multiple instances, on a server, the way that it routes it from the fully qualified domain name is it looks at what you're coming into from an instance perspective. It will route the name to the correct port. And so as long as you have that service running, if people hit the TCP IP name,
that works. Okay.
It will route you to the correct port. And again, it won't stop people forever. It make them try twice to be able to get to it. But there's absolutely no reason whatsoever if you're running a SQL Server, it should run on the default port on your on-premise settings.
Thank you.
So, yeah, no, great question. Speaking of a great question, there's an even better answer. And the answer is the wonderful comment coming up from Mr. Daniel Taylor, who brought us Brent Ozar. What's faster, in or column store edition? Dan, what do we got here?
So first up, you can tell who is in Florida and who is not in Florida. Those of us still wearing our T-shirts and poor Neeraj up there already wearing sweaters and jackets. So just a little bit of a segue there. Yeah. Sorry about that, Neeraj. You need to move down here with us. So great cheeky article. It was a funny read, right? So P&L Dave, he put out a which is faster, with an inner or clause, and Brent had so much fun reading it that he said, okay, does it change with column store? So he puts together a set of scripts, drops some indexes, alters some tables, puts the pieces together, and then he runs 2 queries against the cluster store index. And what he finds in 2019 with the compatibility mode of 2019, they both, in his words, they both suck. Which I thought was kind of funny because he bolded that. But in SQL Server 2022, moving it to a 16 compatibility level, it fixed the issue. It had 0 scans across the. It had to read 0 segments to get to the answer, which has always been a problem with column store. Right? It would run great most of the time, but then when it wouldn't, your system would just die on the vine. So great article, fun article to read. I recommend going through it. I actually did it within my environment to see, how it would react. And it was a fun article also because we did a lot of the changes with the IQP, right? The intelligent query processor. We did some learning modules on that. So I was like, 2022 has made some great strides when it comes to performance.
Well, and I love it that the default compatibility level for I was going to say you were a little garbled then, but the default compatibility level for SQL 2022, that's the version that you want to go with in order to make sure there was 0 segmentation.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is wonderful the little internal differences between versions and some of the optimizations that you get. Speaking of optimizations, you want to optimize your learning path, and this man is the one to be able to show you how to do it. Of course, I'm talking about Mr. Andreas Padilla with the Data Science Toolkit. Andreas, this is a free resource. What do we got in front of us?
Oh, you got a great resource. This is curated and written by Kirsten Strawback. I met him about 2 months ago. Incredibly talented individual, especially in the area of AI, edge. He's doing a ton of edge AI scenarios, and now a lot of work in large language models. What he has curated with a number of other contributors is a great one-stop shop for these accelerators. Anomaly detection accelerator. Just click the button. It deploys the architecture for you. Object detection. OpenAI app demos. Man, he's got a ton of things in here. Forecasting. Cognitive services accelerator. Deploying a whole end-to-end solution for cog services. Nicely done. MLOps and Databricks, which I've been asked by tons of customers how to do that. I love that we have that accelerator right there. Click of a button, off and running, deploys the whole solution for you.
Nice. That is excellent. Speaking of excellence, whenever this man speaks, I know I am about to hear some excellence. And of course, I am talking about the one, the only Mr. Josh Luedeman, bringing us responsible AI principles in practice.
Yeah, so this article I actually stumbled across in LinkedIn or on LinkedIn the other or last weekend, and it's from Joaquin Quiñonero Candela, and I apologize if I pronounced it incorrectly. But he's a technical fellow for AI at LinkedIn, and what he actually does is walk through their principles around responsible AI and how they use them in practice at LinkedIn. So for me, I loved seeing the level of transparency. They talk about, again, their operating principles just around their responsible use of AI, what they align to whenever they think about should we apply AI here or not. They go through some of their applications of generative AI within the LinkedIn platform. It's actually really, really good. And again, I'm a fan of transparency, so bringing out, again, like the principles of upholding trust and promoting fairness and inclusion. And again, the transparency bullet. I just, for me, I loved reading the whole thing just to have a better understanding of where they were coming from as far as building it into their platform, their social networking platform. So not exactly a big demo and demo heavy feature awesome read, but for me, I just loved it from the responsible AI and transparency angle.
Still absolutely fascinating. I can't wait to read this because one of the things that people are often looking for, especially in the age of AI, is how are other companies using this? People are, again, we're building the plane as we're flying it. And there's often times that as you begin to implement something, you can't help but look behind you and go, am I doing this right? We're supposed to do the thing like this. And so a company who is being at the forefront, sharing their use cases, sharing their principles for responsible AI, I absolutely love that, and that's a wonderful thing to especially have in your hip pocket as we go and we speak with customers and as we try and understand this landscape and move forward. Speaking of excellent, right? Once again, back to the excellence, we have the one, the only Mr. Neeraj Jhaveri announcing Microsoft Copilot, your everyday AI companion. Neeraj, I love these links; they look very familiar
Yeah.
to me.
Yep, Copilot. They are everywhere. So Copilot is now almost in most of the products that Microsoft is releasing it out. The new releases that came in was 150 new features came in. Particular the apps like Paint and uh, Clipchamp and other apps now has Copilot integrated with it. The other thing is Bing now supports DALL-E 3, which is the biggest thing. I mean, now if you go to Bing, you can do a lot of nice things in there. And the best part of this video or this article is you also have a video showing how to introduce Copilot and how it's going to help you out in day-to-day life. And I'm sure, as Josh mentioned, it's with RAI, responsible AI is integrated with it. So definitely something that you should definitely look at. Copilot. I mean, the reason I brought this up was during the weekend, one of my friend was like, "What's Copilot?" And I'm sharing him link that this is what the Copilot is there, and this came up as a nice article that the new releases now Copilot is there in most of Microsoft products.
I was gonna say I couldn't help but wonder watching Copilot if this is just the new logo for Copilot or if this is going to end up being Microsoft's logo at some point in time.
I was wondering the same thing. Is it like a new logo or is it just a Copilot logo? I mean, but it's
Yeah.
everywhere. I mean, that same logo is everywhere. So something for
Copilot
next
all the
time.
things. Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say that was just absolutely fascinating. And one of the things that I found fascinating was this blog sending data to Synapse real-time analytics in Fabric from Apache Kafka using ecosystems using Java. So this past week, I made the semantic kernel, but I did it without Java in Microsoft Fabric. I'm going to have to go play around with this because what Alvaro Godal does is he actually shows how to be able to use this in Kafka, and he uses Java, and he does it all using Microsoft Fabric. So he's got his prerequisites right here. The Java Developer Kit, download and install a Maven binary on Ubuntu, utilize Git on Ubuntu, create an event stream from Microsoft Fabric, and then he's going to use that endpoint to be able to send data via Kafka over to your KQL database for you to be able to consume. This is absolutely fascinating to me, and I really enjoyed the step-by-step nature of this. I'm excited to see because I noticed his browser window. Clearly, he's utilizing a Mac for this. So, seeing as how I'm in a Windows environment, I'm curious to see if I'm going to be able to make this work in the same way on Windows. We'll have to see. I'm looking forward to playing around on this, but I thought this was a wonderful example. And I would probably make Java at Microsoft much happier if I did something that actually utilized Java instead of just Python this next time.
Yeah.
But speaking of someone who makes me happy, whenever I see their content, it puts a smile on my face. And of course, I'm talking about Mr. Daniel Taylor with advanced scenarios with private endpoints for Azure SQL Managed Instance.
Yeah, so the only time I use Java is when I'm hacking my Minecraft server. So so one of the things I was struggling with, and I'm so glad Zoran put out these blog posts, is why would I use a private endpoint with managed instance? We've already got it behind a VNet. We're already allocating our IPs to it, right? Why would I use this? So in Zoran's post, this is the second post. The first post goes over the common scenarios. In this post, he covers the hub and spoke technology. If you're using only a SQL managed instance as the hub, and all the other pieces around it are the spoke. He talks about how you can use it with a partner in ISV, and if you have two SQL servers, SQL Server. If you have two managed instances, two SQLs talking to each other via a link server or transactional replication, right? Because we can have transactional replication in there inside a managed instance. Sorry, got all choked up there. And then he also covers at the end the failover group listener. So it's a great article. It's a bit of an in-depth article, which is why I didn't want to go too much into the points here. It's definitely worth a read of as to why you should use private endpoints with a managed instance and not overlook them.
Great stuff. I love it that he has the why scenarios in there. That's so important to be able to capture. Speaking of things that are very important to capture, I look at this man. I think important. I go, Mr. Andreas Padilla, tell me more about this IoT production training pack. I mean, we've got data science learning modules. We got computer vision in a day. Now we're up to IoT. This is the story you're telling this time, right?
Oh, I veered away from articles and blogs today. I wanted to give the audience out there nice, just something they can grab on and run and deploy, which is why we put out the DS toolkit and the Vision AI in a day, and now the IoT production training pack. What do we love about this training pack? This training pack was developed by Michael Bazarski, Michael Baz, and I believe Chris Ayers and our good friend Raul Alarcon over in Spain. And they gave us in one consumable, nice, easy consumable platform the top questions that you want to know about IoT solutions. How to create your certificates. What does that mean? How do I involve the manufacturer into the certificate creation process and getting those certificates deployed on your IoT devices? What are the types of data, the data ingress and egress questions you're going to have to solve or be aware of when using IoT Hub, and then leveraging IoT routes, how to bring in Event Grid into the mix, DevOps, how DevOps wraps around IoT Hub, the device provisioning service, and last but not least, a nice Kickstarter, a nice, just wade into the water and get dangerous when it comes to IoT Edge. So if I always push my customers to this repository, this great, pack, and it's pretty much solves a lot of their questions.
Man, can you guys smell it? I can smell what Node.io is cooking. Sorry.
Pancakes. It's pancakes. Maybe blueberry pancakes. Ooh, I am excited for that. Speaking of something else I am excited for, I am always excited when I hear this man speak. And last but certainly not least, it is Mr. Josh Luedeman bringing it home with quick API endpoints using the API Data Builder.
Yeah, so this actually, I found it was a video that just dropped actually last week ago today, on the Microsoft Developer YouTube channel. And what this is about is actually an open source product, or kind of a framework, shall we say, where you can actually deploy out an API over top of your database solution, tables, the whole deal. It makes it a lot easier to basically build a data reading API over top of a database. And using any platform, any language, any device is the goal of this. It's an open source product from Microsoft, and it's great. It simplifies, with its own dedicated CLI. You can use REST or GraphQL to access any of those in there, and it actually fully integrates with a newer feature in static websites called database connection. So in Azure Static Web Apps, you can actually use this to access data through those static web apps using this whole platform. So this video walks through it from concept to deployment, the whole way. The only thing it doesn't cover, one of the things that it called out in the video that was actually a good call out, and I actually sent an email out to Jerry Nixon, the presenter, co-presenter there, about it, was a little bit on the security side of it. It does cover authentication, but doesn't get too deep down into the security in this demo. So something to think about there. But definitely a great product, definitely a great thing for everyone to look at. But yeah, I definitely was a little bit of a research project for me as part of getting ready for going to Live 360 here later this year.
I was going to say that takes us over to the wrap up. I believe that's everything for the different shows. Josh Luedeman with the smooth transition. With their smooth.
I was kind of proud of myself for that one. I don't know if I could do that again if I tried.
I was going to say, I heard that. I was like, I feel what you're flowing right there. That's nice. You got that going.
Picking up what I'm putting down, my friend.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Blueberry pancakes all day long. Yeah. All right. So speaking of, remember, tomorrow is the day. Future data driven. This is your last chance. Go and sign up. It is free all day long. There are going to be people presenting. I've got a session with Mr. Josh Luedeman. Daniel Taylor has a session. Andreas Padilla has a session. Neeraj Jhaveri has a session. You probably don't have a session. Well, you may have a session. I don't know. Let us know if you do, but you want to go to futuredatadriven.com. It is free to sign up. I'm going to say that price one more time. Free. All it takes is your time. It is running all day long. 5 different virtual rooms. 5, count them, that you have to select from at any hour of the day. There are wonderful sessions happening. We are not the only people from Microsoft presenting. I saw Mr. Bob Ward's going to be there. Davide Murray is going to be there. There's going to be so many wonderful folks there speaking, wonderful MVPs as well. You want to make sure and check that out. And then Josh, in November, give it to me quickly. Where are we going to be, my friend?
We are going to the beautiful Lowe's Royal Pacific Resort on the luscious grounds of Universal Studios Orlando for the intelligent and just fun-filled event, Live 360.
That's right. So Live 360 is coming to you. I'm going to be there. Josh Luedeman is going to be there. Neeraj Jhaveri is going to be there. Buck Woody's going to be there. If you don't get a chance to go to the SQL Saturday pre-con that we have this in coming up next week, then you can go to Live 360 and you'll get us a full day for the data professional. We will be giving this to you live. It's going to be a great hands-on lab, your chance to be able to get hands-on experience with Microsoft Fabric, talking to us, the product groups that have worked with Microsoft Fabric from way before the beginning. And we are there for you to answer your questions. Make sure to go to ak.ms Live 360 to find that, register, sign up, and attend all this great stuff. And of course, if you're in the Orlando area or planning to be in the Orlando area, sign up for SQL Saturday Orlando next week. On Friday, we will be delivering our data professional pre-con for Microsoft Fabric. Myself, Dan, Josh, we're all going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Bradley Schatt's going to come down. Buck Woody's going to be over. You don't want to miss a thing. So make sure that we see you there. Gentlemen, anything else that I was going to say, anything else that we want to make sure that we bring?
Yes, we're going to have cool stickers.
Oh yeah, yes. We are definitely we are going to have free laptop stickers that we give out at Live 360 and at SQL Saturday Orlando. Neeraj, I don't know where that came from, buddy. You got to do that again. Oh my goodness. That was fantastic. All right, with awesome. That, I am Bradley Ball for Daniel Taylor, Josh Luedeman, Andreas Padilla, and Neeraj Jhaveri. Thank you, everyone, so much for spending your time with us. Be good to one another. Take care out there. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation.